Sometimes the heart leads us where the mind never intended, and the price can be more than we ever imagined. This is a story of a man who fell in love with his wife's best friend, without imagining the painful consequences that would follow. John and Mary had been married for 7 years. Their marriage was admired by many. Together, they had built a life filled with laughter, routine, and responsibility. They had a 6-year-old daughter who was the center of their joy. To the outside world, they were the perfect couple. But behind closed doors, John sometimes felt the weight of routine pressing down on him. Life had become predictable, and though he still loved Mary, the spark that once burned so bright was starting to fade. Mary had a best friend named Lisa, a woman she had known since childhood. Lisa was like family, always present at their gatherings, often helping Mary with the baby, and sometimes even staying overnight when Mary needed company. To John, Lisa was just Mary's friend. She was cheerful, funny, and always full of energy. Over the years, she became part of their everyday life. But something shifted. It started subtly. One afternoon, while Mary was busy preparing dinner, John and Lisa sat in the living room talking. The conversation was ordinary at first: work, hobbies, jokes, but then John noticed her laughter lingering a little longer than usual, and he found himself staring into her eyes for a second too long. Lisa quickly looked away, but that moment planted a seed. The days passed, and that seed began to grow. Lisa and John started to talk more. Sometimes it was about silly things, sometimes about deeper personal matters. Lisa shared struggles John had never heard before, and John opened up about his frustrations in life. They comforted each other in ways they shouldn't have. John told himself it was harmless, but he felt a dangerous pull. One evening after a family gathering, John offered Lisa a ride home. The car was quiet, the only sound was the hum of the engine. Their hearts beat faster than the silence around them. When John pulled up to her house, neither moved to open the door. Their eyes met, and in a moment of weakness, they leaned toward each other. That night, they crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. What should have been one mistake turned into a hidden affair. They promised each other it wouldn't happen again, but temptation grew stronger each time they saw each other. Secret messages were exchanged late at night. Excuses were made to meet in places Mary would never think to look. They lived in two worlds, pretending to be innocent in front of Mary while carrying a dark secret behind her back. But secrets have a way of coming to light. Mary was not blind. She began noticing changes in her husband. John was more distracted, always on his phone, always working late. Lisa, once warm and open with her, now seemed awkward and distant. At first, Mary ignored it, convincing herself she was being paranoid. But deep inside, her heart whispered the truth she didn't want to believe. One afternoon, Mary picked up John's phone by accident. A message flashed across the screen from Lisa. She hesitated, her heart racing, and opened the chat. Her eyes filled with tears as she scrolled through messages she wished she had never seen. Words of love, of desire, of promises. Her husband and her best friend, the two people she trusted most in the world, had betrayed her. The confrontation was explosive. Mary stood before them both, tears streaming down her face. Her voice trembled as she asked, "How could you? How could you do this to me?" John was silent, unable to meet her eyes. Lisa broke down in shame, whispering apologies that meant nothing. But the damage was done. The bond of trust was shattered. The consequences were heavy. Mary ended the marriage, unable to stay with a man who had broken her heart so deeply. Lisa lost her closest friend forever, carrying the guilt of destroying a friendship that had lasted since childhood. And John? He ended up alone, staring at the pieces of the life he had once taken for granted. He lost his wife, his daughter's home, and his dignity, all because of a moment of weakness that grew into a storm of destruction. In the end, John realized too late that love built on betrayal cannot stand. Temptation may seem sweet in the moment, but the cost is bitter and lasting. Once trust is broken, no amount of regret can rebuild it. And so, his story remains a lesson, a warning to anyone who thinks they can play with fire and not get burned. When temptation knocks, think of the cost. Guard your heart, because not every feeling is worth following. And remember, betrayal may give pleasure for a moment, but the consequences can last a lifetime.